Hashem, today's daf yomi is Menachos daf Lamadal, Menachos 34. So we're going to start on today's daf yomi around 4 lines from the top as we're continuing with our other laws as they relate to a mezuzah. Itmar, wool pasuach min habayis la'aliyah. In the case of a stairwell that's open from the ground floor to the second floor, Amar Apuna, Mishal Pesach Echad Chayv Mezuzah Achas. So a stairway is responsible for mezuzah. And so we learn from here. And so therefore, where it's an entrance. So in this case, the stairway is obligated to have a mezuzah. Rav Huna says if there's one opening that has a mezuzah, and if it has two openings, you're required to have two mezuzahs. Amar Rav Papa, Shema Mina Mid Rav Huna, we learn from Rav Huna, Hayin Druna de Isla Arba Bachi. If there are four entrances, Chayav ba'arba mezuzos. It's obligated to have four mezuzos. The Gemara says, isn't that obvious? Pshita. Is that obvious? The Gemara says, lo tzricha afagav de ragel b'chad. Even though the person is typically using one more than the other, we're still going to say it's liable for four mezuzos. Amar Meimar, hai pisla de akarna. The corner of the entrance is chayav b'mezuzah. The corner of the entrance is obligated to the mezuzah. This we're talking about a case where there were no doorposts. The walls just simply stop before reaching the corner. We're going to say it has to have a mezuzah. So Amrulay, Rav Ashi Amemar V'alei Slei Petzimin. It doesn't have doorposts. Why does it require to have a mezuzah? Amrulay Ad Petzimi. No, it does have doorposts. He shows him the side posts. The walls on either side are considered to be the doors. Papa Ikol Abeimar Shmuel. So Rav Papa came to the house of Shmuel, and he saw an entrance that it only had one side post, which was on the left side. So the entrance was at the very end of one wall on the right side. The left side had a side post, but the right side didn't. It was just walking right in. So Vavidu a mezuzah, he made a mezuzah. I'm like, come on, Rebbe Meir. It's like Rebbe Meir says that even if there's only one side post requires a mezuzah. Emer Rebbe Meir miyamin. He only says if it's on the right side, but Mismol Amar doesn't say if it's on the left side. Gemara says, Mahi, what's the source for this idea that the right side is the side that's primary with respect to mezuzah? Because it says when you come in, it has to be from the right side. Maybe it's on the left side. My Talmud. So it says, Tamomar Beisach. It says Beisach teach us on the right side. Then the Gemara says, My Talmud. What's the source for this? Amaraba derach bi'asla min that the way of bi'asla means the way you're walking, coming in should be from the right side. When a person moves his foot, he moves his right foot first. He has a different source for the fact that that the mezuzah should be on the right side, and right side takes primacy with the mezuzah. Yoyada the Kohen took one aron, took a chest, and he made a hole in the door or in the lid. So it's almost put it next to the altar on the right side when people come in. And they put the money there. So it shows people come in, they come in from the right side. My Rebbe Meir. So where does Rebbe Meir say that one side post is enough? Rebbe Meir says if there's only one side post, it's a requirement to have a mezuzah. Let me say it's exempt. My time in the Rabbanim mezuzos ksiv, because it says mezuzos, and when it says mezuzos, it's written with only one vav. And so therefore, it's written in the plural. So meaning to say that the two doorposts are necessary. But my time in the Rabbi Meir, the Tanya mezuzos is because Rabbi Meir says that it's written mezuzos. Shomeani mia mezuzos. I might think that the minimum mezuzos is two. Shomer mezuzos with parsha shnia, but in the second paragraph of Shema it says mezuzos with the second vav. Shein Talmud Omar, when it didn't have to say that, have a riboy achar riboy. So then that's an amplification after amplification. To tell us, tell us you only need one mezuzah, one side post in order to require mezuzah. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Kiva Omer. Rabbi Akiva says, "Ein lo tzarach kashomer al mashkof al shtei mezuzos." When it says on the lintel on the two doorposts, she'ein tam omar shtei. It doesn't need to say two. Ma tam omar shtei. What does it say? Two zebanach of kol makar shenemar mezuzos inu el achas ad sheyifro chachot Hashem. Tell us whenever it says side post, you only need one unless the pasuk says two. Now we're going. So Tan Rabbanan. The mitzvah mezuzah, you have to write it. I might think you're writing on stones. Never ksiva, never along ksiva. It's stated here with respect to mezuzah writing, and stating with respect to a get, a divorce. It says writing. Malon ala sefer, just like by a get, it's on a parchment or paper. Afkan ala sefer. So too by mezuzah, it's on a scroll. Or maybe it's the opposite. Never ksiva, never along ksiva. It says here by mezuzah writing. And also it says with respect to writing on stone, it says writing just like there when you come into Eretz Yisrael, it's supposed to be written on stone. Also here, which one is it more similar to? We're going to compare it to future generations, and future generations is a get, and that's where you write on a parchment. And we don't compare the stones; it's not applicable in the future. And like it states. This is from Jeremiah, where Jeremiah asked his assistant Baruch to write a document, and he says he writes it on a scroll with ink. And so therefore we see from here that you have to write it on a scroll with ink. Torah says on your doorpost. The Torah tells us that you have to write it on the doorpost, and you want to learn it out from ksiva, meaning to say, how do you write it on doorposts? Not on a stone, it's on a doorpost. Amar Kro. So why do you need the pasuk ukesaftam? Amar Kro ukesaftam ksiva tama v'hadar amazazos means you first should write and then put it on the doorpost. Meaning to say, you could have written it on a stone, and so basically, you might have thought you could write it on a stone and then put it on the doorposts. Meaning to say, the question was that you should have thought to write it on the doorpost directly, and now he's saying that you're writing it. So how do you know to write it? So he says, "I'm a crow kasaftem ksivatam." First, you write it on the paper, and then you put it on the doorpost. But since it's written kasaftem, which means it's not written directly on the doorpost, why do you have to say? Why do you need kasaftam? The gzera shava. We're not for the gzera shava. I would have said first you write it on the stone and then put it on the doorpost. Commercial, we don't say that. And now we go to move on from the mezuzos for now and talk about tefillin. The 4 paragraphs of the tefillin are essential. If you don't have one of the paragraphs, it's no good. Even if one letter is essential. Where it says, well, if even one letter is essential, obviously all the 4 paragraphs are essential. Pshita, we need this for the point of a yud, that if it's missing even that, it's disqualified. That's all also obvious. We need it for the other teaching of Rabbi Yehuda. This is like a mezuzah. Any letter that's not mukaf kvil, that's not surrounded by parchment, is disqualified. Tan Rabbanan, Gemara says, let's talk about the tefillin. It says the word totafos 3 times, but once it's written with a vav, and the other 2 times it's not. So therefore, Reikan Arba, that's 4 times. Every Rabbi Shmuel. So therefore, the head tefillin is supposed to be 4 compartments. Rabbi Akiva Omer Eno Tzarach. You don't need that to tell us that the head tefillin requires 4 compartments. Tat bekat v'shtayim, tat be'afrika shtayim. That teaches us 4. Tan Rabbanan Yachol Yochtavemo Arba Oros. I might think that you could write the 4 passages on 4 heads. V'nichem ba'arba batim, and place them in 4 compartments, ba'arba oros, which themselves are made of 4 different hides. Tam Omer was zikaron beinenecha. The paragraphs that you place them in need to be made out of 1 piece of skin. Okay, so that codes for arba oros. You write on 4 pieces of parchment. And you place it in 4 compartments that are made out of 1 piece of skin. If you wrote it on one piece of skin, and you put it in 4 batim, yatsa, you would fulfill your obligation. So that would still be okay. But since they're all written on a single hide, it requires that there is a space between the compartments. Divrei Rebbe, the position of Rebbe. He says you don't need to leave a space between them, but you have to insert a string or a cord between each and every compartment to make it separate. The main charitz in the car, but if the charitz, the group is not recognizable from the outside, psulas, it's disqualified. What about the arm tefillin? Tanrabanan ketzak kosvin. How do you write the arm tefillin? Tefillin shal yad kosva or echad. The tefillin of the hand you write on one piece of hide. If you write on four pieces of skin and you put in one bias, one compartment, you fulfill your obligation. But you need to connect them together. Will be a sign on your hand. Just like the arm tefillin is one sign from the outside, so too from the inside. Rabbi Yossi says, you don't need that. You don't need to bind them. I'm Rabbi Yossi, modally Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi, Shem Elo Tefillin Shal Yad, and Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi says that if you don't have the tefillin of the yad, V'yesh Shtei Tefillin Shal Rosh, but you have two of the head, Shetoa or Al Achas Man, they one piece of hide over one of the head tefillin, Umenicha, you put on your arm. Moda, Hainu Putaya, isn't that their argument? Amarava, Mitvar Rabbi Yossi, Chatzabel Rabbi Yehuda. He changed his mind and he doesn't require them to be put together. Any, is it really the case? That you can make the arm tefillin from the head tefillin. The shalrosh ain't osin osa shalyad. We can make arm tefillin into head tefillin. You can cut them up, but you can't make the head tefillin into arm tefillin. We don't go down from we don't lower mitzvah from the higher kedusha to a lower one. Since the head tefillin has more kedusha than the arm tefillin, why? Rashi says two reasons why the head tefillin has more. One, the letter shin is on the head tefillin, and the daled is on the head tefillin, and the letter yud is also, and the letter yud is on the arm tefillin. So since the majority comes from the head, it's considered holier. And then there's a second answer. It's because it's on the most important part of the body, which is the head. So the Gemara says, "Lokasha, how about tikta, how about chadatata?" So when Rabbi Yochanan is strict, that's with old head tefillin. When it comes to the old head tefillin, he's strict. But with new tefillin, Rabbi Yossi is lenient. Uman da'amar hazman melsi, who according to the position that says just preparing it is considered enough. The Asni Oel Mikari made this stipulation from the beginning. Tana Rabbanan, Ketzat Sidron. How do we arrange the tefillin passages? So we say you have to arrange it in the order in which they're written in the Torah. Kadesh, Vayaki Avecha, Miyamin, they're on the right side, and Shema Vayam Shemo Mismo, and Shema and Vayam Shemo are on the left side. Verse says, Vatanya Ibcha. But we have a different verse that teaches the opposite. One is on the right side of a reader of the passages. One is on the right side of the wearer. According to the Brisa, the one who's reading the passages, you have to read them according to the order of the Torah. So the person facing the tefillin wearer has to read the passages in the order that they're written in the Torah. So it's Kadesh, Vayakiv followed by Shema and Vayam Shemoah. That's how Rashi understands it. And this is the way we do Rashi tefillin. The Rabbeinu Tam says the following. He says, Kadesh, and Shema are, he says Kadesh is on the Vayakiv on the right, and Shema Vayim Shemor on the left. So when it says Kadesh and Vayakiv on the should be on the reader's right, and Shema Vayim Shemor will be on the reader's left. Okay, so in Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, the two Vaya passages are right next to each other, and the two Kadesh and Shema are on the opposite sides of the head tefillin. Rabbeinu Tam, of course, says that the passages have to be written in the order, so that's why you have to leave a space when you write them. So, okay. So the Gemara says, we'll stop here. Let's stop here, Baruch Hashem. This is today's daf, and we'll obviously go over it much slower and more carefully on Shabbos Kodesh. Yasher Koach.
Good Shabbos. Thank